Hello? Good evening. Hello? Good evening. Hi everyone. This is going to be the first of a few lists that I'm going to do because I simply don't have time to do any other kind of video at the moment. It's not a top 10 as such, it's just 10 of my favourites, I suppose. I'm not saying these are the 10 best of anything, except in my humble opinion. So yeah, there's going to be 10 games for this first list, with 5 honourable mentions. And yeah, okay, well, let's not waste any time, let's get right to it. Honourable mentions. Goldeneye, particularly the multiplayer mode. Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. 4. Blaze Blue, I really could pick any game, but I'm gonna go with my favourite Chrono Phantasma. Rayman Origins. Shadow of the Colossus, both versions. Number 10! Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Wow, this was such a solid game. Ha, no pun intended. Now, before I get fucking lynched, this is sort of a tie, I guess. Metal Gear Solid 3 has the best story of the franchise, whereas I think Metal Gear Solid 5 has the best gameplay of the franchise. So this is a sort of split, I suppose. I think, as I say, I think it's got the best gameplay of the whole series. The story is pretty weak, honestly, in terms of Metal Gear. The characters are good and fleshed out. It's it's a very meme-worthy game. It is a little bit repetitive, honestly, but if you dive into it, you probably won't notice. I got a good 100 hours out of this game, and my housemate at the time watched the entire thing, watched me play through the entire thing, so it must be pretty damn good. And that's all including a bug that I had with the game, where all of the missions unlocked about a third of the way through the game, which is not supposed to do. But I still enjoyed it just the same, and yeah, I can't recommend this enough.
They played us like a damn fiddle!
Number 9. Timesplitters 2. This gets my vote for the best first-person shooter of all time. Goldeneye's great. Timesplitters Future Perfect, the third game in the franchise, is almost as good. This game is just bursting at the seams with content. It has 120 characters to unlock. Now, they're just skins unless you turn on abilities, but if you turn on abilities, that kind of takes away the fun, the fairness of it, I suppose. There's at least 100 hours of gameplay in here if you're coming into it fresh. I managed to blaze through it pretty quickly when I played it recently. But when you're playing through it for the first time, you'll get lots of fun. It's got tons of weapons, it's got tons of crazy characters, you go through different time periods, and it's all very authentic and it's very tongue-in-cheek and just so much fun. It's one of the games I've spent the most time playing a single session of, a whopping 16 hours, which for me was and is pretty damn ridiculous. Cannot recommend this enough. Número 8. Oh, necesito una siesta. It's a split, Devil May Cry 3 and Beautiful Joe. This seems kind of like cheating, but they were both directed by the same guy, they both had the same music composer, and of course they were both released by Capcom. So screw you, I'm including them both. Devil May Cry 3 is a prequel to the original Devil May Cry, and it's just got so much challenge in it, to be honest. If you play through it on Dante Must Die difficulty, it's one of the hardest hack and slash games of all time. It's one of my greatest gaming achievements is getting through this on the Dante Must Die mode without using Super Dante. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I went through tons of controls to do it. Beautiful Joe is a stylish, slick beat-em-up where you can slow down and fast forward time, you can zoom in, and there's just so many cool movie references in it, and the soundtracks for both games are pretty rocking. As I say, they're by the same person. But they're very different, but I would recommend them both strongly, both stellar games.
Head to the go-go, baby!
Number 7! The Mass Effect Trilogy. Okay, fine, Mass Effect 2 if you're making me pick one. It's a sprawling space opera. Now, I didn't think I would like Mass Effect at all when I first heard about it, but then I finally talked myself into playing it and I have never looked back. The trilogy is just one of the greatest gaming experiences of all time, with a very rich story which you're in the driving seat for. You completely control almost every aspect of the story. You can be a complete dick or you can be a complete angel, or some mix of the two. It's totally up to you. The characters are very well fleshed out and interesting. The gameplay itself is somewhat lacking, I suppose, but the story makes up for it very well. The music, it does its job. It's nothing amazing, apart from the Suicide Mission track, which everyone knows and loves, or so they should. And I just can't recommend it enough, just like all the other games on this list. You will be changed once you get through the Suicide Mission of Mass Effect 2. And I recommend the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3 if you get it.
We've
had a good ride.
The best.
Number 6. Oh. The Resident Evil Remake. This was very difficult for me to include this over Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, but I have to give it to the remake. It's by far the best game of the series. It's incredibly scary. I've beaten it about 10 times, even on invisible enemy mode, and it still shits me up. It's a remake of the original game, of course. The mansion has had about 60% of extra content added. It's a very difficult game, particularly because of those fucking Crimson Heads. They are terrifying. Quite possibly the most scary monster in gaming history for me. The hunters are a little bit weaker, unfortunately. The story's pretty meh. It's sort of like watching a B-movie, but it far exceeds the original game. The acting is much better. Jill's arse is way better, naturally. And yeah, if you're feeling brave, please play it. It's difficult, but it is so worth it when you get through it. Get it done, friends.
A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
Number 5! Metroid Prime. I could go on about this game for days. It is, in my opinion, the best game of the whole Metroid franchise. A lot of people like Super Metroid better, which is fine, but I think Metroid Prime exceeds it. It's a first-person shooter. The graphics for 2002 are spellbinding. Even to this day, there's something to look at. There's plenty of good challenges. It's always fair. The gameplay is always kept fresh with different visors, different beams that you get to use, bombs, all kinds of stuff. The game's a bit of a labyrinth, but it's not as bad as the other Metroid games, particularly Metroid Prime 2. That game's ridiculous for that. It's got the best boss battle in gaming history, in my opinion. It's the second last boss. It's so good. The music's very atmospheric and very relaxing and creepy at times. The enemies are quite creepy as well. And you could spend days playing it. And if you've never played a Metroid game before, this is the one. Go on, please. Number 4. Silent Hill 2. Yes, Silent Hill actually beat Resident Evil in my top 10 games, can you believe it? This game, if Metal Gear Solid is the Metal Gear Solid of action games, then Silent Hill 2 is the Metal Gear Solid of horror games. It's a psychological horror. There's very few jump scares in it. The combat is quite lacking. The music is very creepy and atmospheric. It's very minimal music, but it certainly does its job. The story is wow. The twist at the end just shatters your world. By the time you finish it, you will be a changed person, and I sincerely mean that. Pyramid Head, the famous monster, is one incredible nemesis in the game. He never fails to scare you. The locations are freaky as hell. There's a hospital, apartment buildings, a park, a prison. And as I say, when you come through the other side of Silent Hill 2, you are not the same person you were before you started. Number 3. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to anyone. This is a very unique game in the Mario franchise, or at least it was until Yoshi got his own series. I know it's Yoshi, I say Yoshi, fucking try and stop me. And the music in this game, very, very good. The graphics are very, very original. They're sort of based on pastel drawings and crayons, and it's a very colourful game. And it's very relaxing. It's almost Kirby levels of relaxing. The gameplay is always kept fresh. The boss battles are something to behold. They're pretty simplistic, but they're very nice to look at and a lot of fun to play through. The locations and the enemies are original and very unique. And the final boss, if you were a kid playing through this game for the first time, the final boss completely messed with your head, and it was never quite the same. It gets my pick for one of the best platformers of all time anyway. Number 2, Donkey Kong Country 2. Ha! Now there's a curveball. You thought this was going to be number 1, didn't you? Well, for good reason too. This was my favourite game for 20 years straight. Crazy. The platforming, it's the king of all platformers, I think. The music is what I keep talking about music, I know, but it's got one of the best soundtracks in gaming history. There's not a single bad track on this. The locations are very colourful and unique, like a theme park, a swamp, a sunken ship, a volcano, which isn't quite as unique, but it's still pretty cool. There's constant gameplay gimmicks getting thrown at you almost every level that change the experience. the whole way through. The animal buddies are the best they've ever been. Donkey Kong Country 1 and 3 are also really good, but this is the king of all platformers in my onion. And Dixie, this was the introduction of Dixie Kong in this game, and she's my favourite Kong just for that helicopter spin. And the gameplay's so fluid and fresh, and at the time the graphics were mind-blowing for a Super Nintendo game. So, what could possibly top Donkey Kong Country 2, Silent Hill 2, Metroid Prime? What game could possibly top all of these and topple my favourite game for 20 years straight? What could it be? Number 1! Nier Automata, or Automata, or however you're supposed to say it. Yeah, anyone who knows me personally will not be surprised by this. This game is the best game I have ever played. It's a hack and slash, and it's very, very surreal and weird, and it's a weird game for weird people, is how the director describes it. There's always something getting thrown at you. Every time you think you understand the game, a whole new gimmick is introduced that you have to get used to. And it is for that reason that you never get bored. The gameplay is always fresh, the enemies are unique and interesting, the bosses are really, really good too. And I have to say this is one of the best game soundtracks of all time for me, definitely in the top 3. Every single track has about 4 different versions of it, and they all mix and mold with each other, and it's perfect. There's so many incredible moments in the game that you'll not forget, like the first time you enter the amusement park. That might be my personal favourite moment of the game. The story just comes with twist after twist after twist. Every time you think you understand what's going on, the rug is pulled out from underneath you. And when you think you're finished with the game, nope, not even close. It's a bit of an open world game, but the open world is quite small. But that suits my needs perfectly. All of the characters, even though they're androids, they're all fully fleshed out, they're all very interesting, they're all very well designed. And by the time you get to the just as I say, when you think you've finished, you're actually far from it. But when you do finally finish it, you are a wreck because of all the twists and turns that the game has taken. And I gotta say, maybe the reason I love it so much, or part of the reason, is that I was playing it during quite a patchy point in my life, and it just fit my mood perfectly. So if you don't play any other game on this list, you have to play Nier Automata. That's how I say it, and I'll say it however I damn well please. Thank you very much for watching, guys. That was my list. I had fun making it. I hope you had fun watching it, and please drop me a comment, let me know if you agree with any of my picks, and if not, what are your top 10 favourite games? I know how much I sound like a stereotypical wanker of a YouTuber, but I'm genuinely curious to know what your 10 favourite games are, and I will read and respond to every comment. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you for another list or something else very soon. Bye for now!